Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Southern Empire is one of Australia's most exciting progressive rock bands, formed by keyboardist Shaun Timms. After the disbanding of Unitopia, Southern Empire will astound the listener with intricate yet catchy songs, amazing musicianship, and a harder, more edgy sound, perfectly suited to today's generation. For those who love the music of Dream Theater, IQ, Transatlantic, and Steven Wilson, this is the band for you. After a 17-year involvement with Unitopia ended in 2013, Shaun Timms had an album's worth of songs written, but no band to play and record them. But now Unitopia is back. Drummer Chester Thompson and bassist Alphonso Johnson contributed their legendary talents as the new powerhouse rhythm section of Unitopia's latest album, Seven Chambers. Both their resumes read like a who's who of the music industry, with Chester having worked with Frank Zappa, Weather Report, and over 30 years with Genesis as their touring drummer, while Alfonso has also worked with Weather Report, as well as Santana, George Duke, Phil Collins, Steve Hackett, and countless others, both as studio and touring musicians. Shaun Timms has been established as a session musician ever since he was a member of bands such as Hearts of Fire in the 1980s. He is a revered engineer, composer, arranger, and producer, and the lead songwriter and keyboardist with progressive rock bands Unitopia and Southern Empire. And also, welcome new Southern Empire singer, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter Shaun Holton to Interviewing the Legends. Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing? What a nice intro.
Yeah, I am really digging Australian prog bands lately. I had Sam Vallon from Caligula's Horse on recently. I am friends with Ben Craven. I don't know if you know Ben Craven or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Really cool guy.
yeah.
And I was a huge fan of Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs back in the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah, yeah. He put out some great albums. I've got a lot of them from back in the day. Yeah, it's good stuff. It kind of ventures into prog territory a little bit.
You
So yeah.
know, it's a shame he passed away so young because, a lot of people don't realize he goes way back
Mm.
in the music scene. He's in the very early days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He was putting albums out in the probably from the early to mid 60s. And he probably even earlier, actually, the 50s, he was sort of doing that rock and roll thing. And then he kind of moved into that into the 60s and 70s, into the more, almost that proto prog,
Right.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really good stuff.
He's also got some great books. Read his books, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and
Really?
Roll.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's got, I think, two from memory.
There you go.
What kind of books are they? What are they about?
Biographical.
Huh. I'm gonna have to get that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
He was a wild man. Definitely a wild man.
Children of the Sun, man, that's like the, ultimate, you know, prog rock song. I love that, that whole album's great.
It is. Yeah, I've got that
Yeah.
one. That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's the keeper, that one.
I want to talk a little bit first about Shaun Holton. Okay. Earth Meet World, Projected Twin. That's
Yep.
was your most recent, I guess, right? Is Projected Twin still are you still continuing as Projected Twin or just Shaun Holton?
Projected twin is part of my ongoing personality disorder in which I don't know if I'm the project or the project is me. And so in
Okay.
recent years, it's become a Shaun Holton thing. But honestly, projected twin was so, as many people in the prog community will understand probably, is that when you discover that you really love prog, you discover that it's quite difficult to find other people around you, maybe that necessarily do. And so Projected Twin was my excuse and opportunity to make the music I didn't have anybody to make with. But it was
Right.
basically a project in which I fantasized about being in a project like Southern Empire, or at the time Porcupine Tree, which was a huge influence on me at that particular time, and Opeth. And so it was kind of a fictitious band. It was something that I was trying to make look bigger than me. And as it picked up a little bit of steam, it became something that I couldn't hide, was just me.
Mm-hmm.
All in amongst trying to be okay with being just me.
You know, that happens a lot, the alter ego thing in a lot of musicians, which is very cool. You know, I like it. You know, if I had my way, I was a top 40 DJ back in the late 70s. You know, if I had my way, I'd make every song on top 40 prog because it's so intelligent. It's intelligent music. It's, you know, the musicianship is incredible and it just blows away anything, you know, on top 40 radio nowadays. It really does.
I think you would struggle to find a listener base in any genre outside of prog where people still care about music as passionately as prog does.
Yeah. Americans are very fickle, you know. Everything's Taylor Swift. You know, Taylor Swift selling out stadiums is disgusting. Okay. I don't care how many people tell me she's got talent. No. Yeah, I don't buy it. I really don't buy it.
Yeah. I guess
another thing about you, Shaun, is you were on The Voice.
I was
in Australia. Yeah. Not only that, you sang with Keith Urban.
I did. Yeah.
So you got kind of a countryside buried in you as well, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I grew up in a household with an eclectic, broad taste in music.
Right.
So I've basically just grown up on like high fiber music, good quality stuff that has stood the test of time. So if it's good, in my opinion, as subjective as that is, then I'm into it.
Keith Urban, he doesn't live in Australia, does he?
No, he's one of those. He's someone that I think he was quite prominent and well developed in the area of Australia that he came from, but there can sometimes, like, you know, Silverchair, The Vines, etc. There are a handful of artists from Australia that have had to break it overseas before we've, you know, decided we're proud of them being our own.
Yeah. Rolf Harris springs to mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you accepted AC/DC as a.
Yeah. Way before they hit it overseas. So
Brian's got a house here. I'm in Sarasota, in the Sarasota area in Florida. He's got a house here in Sarasota.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
He's a local, you know, half the time anyway.
Yeah.
Nice guy. He just shows up in pubs every once in a while and he starts singing, you know. He's a really nice guy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about the new album. Well, it's not as new anymore, but I really enjoyed it. It's a great album. I hope your new lead singer sticks around in the band for a while.
He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere for a while anyway.
Yeah. I do want to say a few tracks on Earth Meet World that I really enjoyed. First of all, I like the video of Bang with the family. That was really cool.
Yeah. I think that captured my life quite well.
I've got 5 grandkids, so I can identify with, you know. As a matter of fact, they just left. They spent the weekend with us.
Grandpa's
the cleanup is murder. But I really enjoyed that video. Some of the other tracks I liked. Begin was very cool, kind of a spacey track. Parks Without Trees, another favorite. And I really loved Migrate.
Oh, thank you.
Probably one of my favorite, I think, on the album.
I think that's sort of unanimously the most mentioned one, I would say, Migrate. Most people comment about Migrate,
Yeah. Excellent album, man. You guys, you know, you're going to work very well together for a long time. I hope anyway.
I think you know, I think where the good thing about it is that as much as Danny is an incredible singer and incredible frontman,
Right.
um, I think his main passion is he's an excellent cover, classic rock singer, and so he
Hmm.
kind of brought that to Southern Empire, and but whereas Shaun is definitely more in that prog vein as far as his vocal style, but also his like Danny's not a writer, even though he came up with some really nice ideas for the current album before he left. He
Right.
by his own admission is not a writer or a producer. He's a singer slash rhythm guitarist and performer. And
Hmm.
so, Shaun is all of those things and more, which is great. So he's obviously a singer and a guitarist and a performer, but
Hmm.
um, he's also a producer, songwriter, arranger, multi-instrumentalist, and all of those things, which I guess, just adds to, the possibilities with future material. And he's also in his 30s, as the rest of the
Hmm.
band are, except me. So I bring the average age of the band up by about 10 years, but that's okay.
That's all right.
Shaun's brought it down a little, so
Yeah. We're sitting in the 40s.
yeah, we're sitting in the very low 40s, I think. But so he's the same age, roughly the same age as Cam, Brody, and Jez, which
Right.
is great because it means sort of extra longevity. I'm hoping they'll keep going after I'm gone. Just
Oh
in
no, you're already talking that way.
oh yeah, well I've got another 20, 25 years left, I think. So
True.
I'll put as much music out in the next 25 years because for me it's such a great way of immortalizing yourself. My kids, might not necessarily listen to my music, but they might play it to their kids and say, "This is what your granddad did,"
Yeah.
and then that they might play it to their kids, and if my music's still being played in 50 years time,
Hmm.
that's pretty sensational. So which is, and even if it's not, even if it's just a record of what I did while I was around, again, that, with the internet, with and physical, material and stuff like that, it's a great legacy to have. It's something
It
that you can
is.
leave behind, apart from obviously your family, your kids and grandkids and stuff. But it's that something creative that you can leave behind that people can hopefully enjoy, forever. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The good thing too is YouTube, because YouTube doesn't delete any old videos,
yeah,
and you don't have to go out and buy music. It's just there, so people can
yeah,
just find your music easily, because you got a ton of stuff on YouTube,
yeah,
which is great. Both of you do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's going to be more.
Hmm.
I, I, we want to get to that monetization. We're about halfway there, so I'm going to post
Yeah.
some more stuff this year, hopefully.
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I've got a ton of interviews on YouTube,
yeah,
and finally getting paid. But,
that's it.
unless you hit millions of views all the time. But I'm getting there. I'm like you guys. We're
Yeah,
getting there, you
yeah,
know. But
definitely.
but my
But
problem is I love prog, so I'm interviewing a lot of prog guys from all over the world, and they don't get as many hits as, Taylor Swift.
yeah. Hey, look, and no judgment. If you wanted to interview Taylor Swift, I wouldn't frown upon that,
I don't want to.
for hits.
Yeah, I think she's
I
even
I
even Stephen Wilson's covered a Swiftie song by this
I
point.
know. God, come on, man. Jeez.
Uh,
I will not sell out for nobody.
I don't think we will
The
either.
last time I sold out a little bit was during disco, but I did go to the clubs, but there were live bands and they were playing good music,
Yeah.
back
Oh,
then.
yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Absolutely,
A
absolutely.
good a
Yeah,
good time doesn't always have to be of high substance.
Yeah. That's it.
true, true. Well, speaking of that, Another World, Reaching Out, the first track on that, I want to call it commercial prog
Hmm.
because your voice made it kind of a commercial sounding tune, didn't it? In a
Yeah.
way, I really
I guess
enjoyed
so.
it.
I guess so. It wasn't even look. When I write, I just write. I
Hmm.
don't really think about oh, this has got to be prog or this has got to be that or whatever. I mean,
Right.
obviously, I write a lot to brief with my clients, and that's a different process. Um, and but when I write for myself, I just write. I get an idea, and the song we're working on at the moment, Shaun
Hmm.
and is we're about halfway through and we're at 9 minutes already. So, but it tells a story. It's a storytelling song, and it's
Yeah.
essentially a love story set in Aztec times, and it's called Smoking Mountain and the Sleeping Woman.
Oh,
And
wow. What a title. Very
yeah,
cool.
I don't know where I read this. I just read a lot,
Hmm.
and uh, I think I just saw a post on Facebook about like a hidden temple, hidden Aztec temple or something like that,
Hmm.
and so I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I researched that, and then that led me on to something else, and that led me on to
Hmm.
this this tale, this folk tale, I guess. And so I thought, oh, that's a really good topic for a song, and then currently writing. I've written some lyrics for another song, and it's called Viola Smith Plays the Drums.
Hmm.
So actually, just viola plays the drums, which is an interesting play on words because there was this jazz drummer all back in the 40s when all the men were off at war. They had
Hmm.
these all female big bands, and
Right.
they you see some videos of these all female big bands, and they were incredible. They were every bit as good, if not better, than because the all the men were off at war, so the
That's right.
female they said, well, let's put a band together.
Hmm.
And there was this one drummer, Viola Smith, who was the drummer in one of these big bands. And I just saw this video clip and I thought, oh, she'd be cool to write a song about. And a lot of my songs, are kind of biographical, like Tesla and Helen from the latest album, latest Unitopia album, and
Right.
so I kind of like writing about real people and real things, and so but whatever sparks my imagination, and I'm actually thinking about that I haven't written any music yet, but I'm kind of thinking that this could actually be Southern Empire doing big band, which I kind of go,
Huh.
that's a cool idea. Let's
It is a
explore.
good, cool idea.
And it
Yeah.
may not ever happen. We might be able to pull it off. We might not. It doesn't matter, but it's a cool idea. And
It
so
is a good idea.
let's give it a go, and I'll present it
Right.
to the guys, and we'll go from there. But I've sort of started writing again after about 4 years of not writing for Southern Empire, but now having the latest album out, having Shaun's voice on it, and him being available,
Hmm.
to come in and sing and collaborate, and we've already started working on two of his songs, so we've kind of got four or five songs underway with a few more possibilities. So we're yeah.
And if this one keeps getting longer, then we're pretty much done.
Pretty much done.
It's going to turn into a concept album.
Yeah. I've always got an idea of the concept, so yeah.
That's so cool about Prague because like you say, you write music about biographies and you get an idea and it turns into a story, a concept album. Like I don't want to harp on Taylor Swift so much, but she talks a lot about breaking up with people, that's just rubbish,
Yeah.
that's, it's not intelligent music, and that's
There's no
that's
rules
what's
with
missing.
prog. You can do whatever you like.
Exactly.
You can kind of go, oh, let's break this down into this. Let's get heavy. Let's get light. Let's do this. You can have
Yeah.
5 different feels within the one song, and
Yep.
and that's perfectly acceptable.
Sure.
Focus. Let's put some yodeling in. It's like,
That's funny. I haven't
yeah,
heard yodeling on a Prog's album before,
Give it time.
yeah,
Yeah. Why
so,
not?
yeah.
Well, you got some interesting instruments in Australia you can add to the album as well.
We
What is it
do,
called? The Didgeridoo or whatever?
Didgeridoo.
didgeridoo. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I think with the way things are at the moment, we did talk about putting some didgeridoo on the latest Unitopia album, but I I cautioned against it only because none of us are actually Indigenous Australians, and I
Hmm.
think it can be seen as cultural misappropriation, if you know what I mean. Back in the day, back maybe 5, 10 years ago, no one would have batted an eyelid, and it would be perfectly acceptable. But I think these days there's a greater sensitivity to
Right.
cultural misappropriation,
Well,
and
just
we kind of hate to be accused of doing that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though I love the sound of the didgeridoo and the clack sticks and those kind of mysterious sort of tribal elements, I think that there's that danger there of misappropriating something that's culturally significant to someone of a different different background.
I recently
Well,
did an
what if you invite a tribal on the album to
It
play?
would be totally fine. Totally
Yeah,
fine. Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Fine.
Yeah, you just got to find the right one. I recently did an event with I won't name him, but a well-known,
Hmm.
legendary Indigenous musician. And at the event, there was a bit of sort of tokenized didgeridoo meets modern
Hmm.
music stuff going on. And he leant over to me. He's must be 70 odd now. And he leant over to me and he went, "Gosh, I hate the didgeridoo."
That figures, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That figures.
that makes that makes sense.
It's like talking to an Australian about Crocodile Dundee, It's like, come on. We're more
Yeah,
than that.
Australia is more than Crocodile Dundee, but that's all people do of Australia for a while.
But the good thing
Yeah.
about that is anytime I've been to the States, nobody has brought out any of those Australian tokenisms to us because most people's concept of an Australian accent is so nuanced that they just think I'm from
Right.
England.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true. Or South Africa, or
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Zealand. Is it true about Australians and New Zealand? How do you say it? New Zealandites or something like that? But
Kiwis.
do you guys always kind of have a little feud between each other? Kind of
Oh, no, I think generally Australians and New Zealanders get on really well together.
they do.
Yeah, there's definitely rivalry in the rugby and the cricket,
Okay.
but it's quite good humored. It's good natured. It's
Yeah.
certainly
That's
not
good.
certainly no nastiness there. It's really quite,
We're both very humorous nations.
yeah, we both like to take the piss at ourselves. You know, and so it never gets kind of any greater than good-natured larrikinism.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
And if it does, that's un-Australian.
yeah,
It's their fault.
yeah, absolutely,
That's funny.
So
Some
yeah,
people are getting the vibes on I guess it's because of Shaun's voice in a way. I'm not saying all the tracks, maybe once in a while. You kind of hear a Yes vibe or maybe a Styx type vibe, which is good because it brings out a little bit of commercialism from the prog tracks, which is good.
Mm.
More people will enjoy that as well. Especially, I guess, in reaching out, you kind of hear a little bit of a Yes vibe in that, which is cool.
The funny thing about that is that when I wrote it, I wanted to have like big sort of multi-part harmonies, but
Right.
I was using Steely Dan type chords, so I had kind of Steely Dan in my head, and then people were sort of saying, "Yeah," and I can hear it with Shaun's voice because he's
Right.
definitely a tenor singer,
Mm-hmm.
and was certainly with his singing on the album, and so I do hear what people are saying, but yes, kind of never really entered my mind when I was writing. Certainly that song, it was more Steely Dan.
Or
Uh,
Steely Dan. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but hey,
Who knows?
And I'm
Everybody hears
very
different things, I
uneducated.
guess.
Yeah, I'm highly uneducated when it comes to Yes and Rush as well.
Yeah.
I grew up on hair metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, with the hair metal. Wow. Like what kind of bands are you talking about?
Like your Van Halen and your White
Oh,
Snake
okay.
and then sort of crossing over into, like your Richard Marx kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mum was a big John Farnham fan. He's kind of in that Richard Marx, Bryan Adams kind of.
and there's nothing wrong with any of that.
No.
I
Yeah.
used to work with Graham Bonnet for a little
Very,
while,
yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, we played his stuff with Impellitteri and the Michael Schenker Group and Rainbow
Mm-hmm.
and Alcatraz, and
Mm.
and it was fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
He's amazing voice.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that
Mm.
was good. Playing a bit of hair metals, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's where
It's
the
it's
rain.
fun to do covers. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Covers are great.
Well, they weren't covers to him; they were his songs.
Yeah, yeah,
They were his songs. He'd written them, and playing them
yeah.
with him and him singing was fantastic. So yeah,
Yeah. And if you're lucky,
I want to
sometimes
mention.
covers will be the lifeblood of an original musician, like
Mhm.
covers pay my bills. I'm
yeah,
still paying
Yeah.
my bills singing other people's songs.
yeah,
Yeah, some people make a lot of money on covers,
absolutely.
It-
Yeah, but you
yeah,
make it your own.
I can't help it.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not intentional.
yeah.
yeah. I'm going to
Yeah,
mention some other tracks. Face the Dawn, okay? You got that kind of a machine gun intro. It kind of sounded 90s rock, you know?
Yeah.
I call it a concept album within a single track. That
yeah,
happens a lot with prog,
it does.
You had some
Absolutely.
jazz elements with a little bit of sax in there, awesome guitars, voice sound, great vocals. Um, and another thing about prog, you got a lot of music changes within a track, which I like, which is cool. It's
I
very,
get,
very inventive stuff.
I get bored very easily. I kind of go, yeah, this has gone as far as it can. Time for a switch up, and then
The
I
switch
might
up.
revisit an earlier theme. But
Yeah,
yeah, if it's interesting to me, chances are it'll be interesting to the listener, and so I kind of make sure that I'm turned on by it, and I'm not getting bored, because I think if I'm getting bored with my own music, chances are someone else will be, and so
yeah.
I try and keep it as entertaining and as you know surprising as possible.
But the changes, that's well known in the prog community, with
Yeah,
the tracks. I guess they're all getting bored, huh?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess we all have ADHD or
Well, it's also like reveling in the environment that prog is.
Right.
So out in every other genre, I've been in rock bands, pop bands,
Hmm.
metal bands, all kinds of bands, original bands. And one of the most detrimental things that has worked against me in my career over the last 20 years is that the next thing that I do will completely alienate the audience that I just built on the thing that I've just done. And it's
Right.
because I love these things so much. So prog's just
Sure.
this opportunity to just bring it all. It's the only place where that sort of thing is celebrated. It's one of the only places where not doing what people thought you were going to do is celebrated.
Right.
Mm.
Well, you guys would be tough in the 60s when you had record companies breathing down your neck saying, "We need a hit. We need a hit." Your song's too long, man. You got to keep it within like 3 minutes. Yeah.
Like, come on, man. No one's going to remember Dark Side of the Moon past this era.
Exactly right. You're
Yeah.
100% right. That's the way it was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh man. Here's, I think, a fan favorite. I think Hold On to Me is a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredible track.
Yeah.
Um, the lyrics, now this will blow you away a little bit. You almost hear a little bit of a Christian rock theme in that,
Mm-hmm.
and a country song. That
Mm.
could be a big hit for a country artist.
Oh yeah,
That's
could.
just my observation, but it's such a great tune, man. Beautiful lyrics.
Well, Cam wrote that one, our
Really?
guitarist, and he played it to me just sitting in my studio with an acoustic guitar, and I just said, "That's a hit. That's our hit." And normally
It is a hit.
you put your hit song usually track 2 or track 3, and that's why it's track 3 on the album. And it was the second
Right.
song that we videoed after reaching out. I do really think it's the hit song of the album.
Yep.
And it's my favorite song on the album. And the fact that I didn't write it, crushes my spirit a little bit. It's okay because it's such a good song, and Cam's such a talented writer. But yeah, when he
But his
played,
his voice fitted perfectly too,
yeah,
on the
yeah,
video.
yeah. Well, we have a band here, Cold Chisel. I don't know if you've heard of Cold Chisel or not. But if you haven't heard of Cold Chisel, Jimmy
Hmm.
Barnes, you've heard of Jimmy Barnes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Cold Chisel, Jimmy Barnes is the lead singer, but Ian Moss is their guitarist, and his
Hmm.
voice is every bit as good as Jimmy's. And Ian would write a song and sing most of it, and then Jimmy would kind of sing the high bits over the top. And that's sort of the approach that we took, in that let's keep Cam singing it. And even when Danny was still with us, Danny was singing a high part over the top. But
Right.
I think because Shaun and Cam's voices are really quite different tonally, it
Very
worked
different.
better,
Yep.
than it did with Cam and Danny. So yeah, that's kind of the approach we took with that. And I just thought, well, it ain't broke, so there's no need to fix it. And Cam's got a wonderful voice. He
Hmm.
kind of plays it down a little bit, but he's really, really talented, really talented. He's
I thought it was
scary.
very clever
Yeah.
that you introduced that track into the album. I think it was great.
Mm,
Yeah. I saw a lot of very positive reviews on YouTube about
great,
that. A lot of
good.
people love that.
Yeah.
This is cool too. Track 4, When You Return. Yeah, Lisa Wetton doing a little piece in that. How cool was that?
Oh, fantastic. I met Lisa in person for the first time over in Verona when we did 2 days Prog Plus One
Hmm.
there later last year. I was going to say earlier this year, but there isn't much earlier this year. When we were on tour there with Unitopia, and it was great to catch up with her in person. But we'd sort of had this, I guess, friendship via Facebook for a while,
Hmm.
and I needed an American accent to do some narration. And I knew she played percussion as well. So I said, "Hey, do you want to do the narration and play some percussion?" And she said, "Absolutely." So, and I'd been an admirer of John's for,
Oh
many,
yeah.
many years. And I remember
Yeah.
being in London when I was 30. And I went, there were no gigs on apart from this one gig that John was doing a solo spot in some
Hmm.
theatre that was about a 20-minute train ride out of, central. I was staying in central London, and I'm sort of catching this train in the middle of the night and going out to play, I don't know where, and then just trying to find this theatre, from the train station. It was all and there probably would have been maybe 100 people there, but he had this killer band, and he played,
Hmm.
he played this Asia stuff, the King Crimson stuff, his solo
Yeah.
stuff. It was such a memorable night, and yeah, so I kind of always have fond memories of
Hmm.
him and his playing and his voice. UK, great band. So just
Hmm.
even his work with Steve Hackett,
Yep.
is brilliant as well. So it's I've been a fan for a long time, and to meet Lisa and just chat to her about him and his legacy and get her on the album was a bit of
Very
a
cool.
yeah yeah
I actually
bit of,
saw John with Uriah Heep. He was a bass player for Uriah Heep for a
oh no,
while.
that's right, I've forgotten that.
The original Heep. Yeah.
yeah yeah
The
that
David
early
Byron.
stuff, great.
Yeah.
Yeah
I want to read this real quick because this is so cool. On one or those Earth-like planets, there may be intelligent life. And if there is intelligent life, why have we not heard from them? Who then are we searching for? For. Did you write that? Did you write that for her?
yes and no.
Yeah.
I I saw an interview with but I forget who, but she was talking about, life on other planets and the possibility, and that kind
Hmm.
of got me into the whole Fermi paradox about, well, if there is life on other planets, why haven't we heard from them?
Right.
And so I sort of took down some lines that she'd said and used them in the demo. But then what I did was sort of paraphrase them because I didn't want to copy it word for word because
Right.
that would be number one, infringement of copyright, and I could get sued, which isn't good. But also number two, I just sort of rather make it my own, and and I think asking the questions, it was more of a statement from her, and I think asking the question is a little bit more poetic rather than
Sure.
make a statement. It's always better to ask
Yeah.
questions, I think, and so. Yeah, I guess I wrote that based on this interview that I saw on YouTube
Yeah.
one. And again, I just happened to just see it by accident and thought, oh, that's a cool idea for a song. So,
Very cool.
and
Can you explain the meaning through moving through tomorrow?
oh, probably if I reread the lyrics.
I had become what I truly despise, searching for what was lost that must never be found, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's for me, all about a lot of my songs are a bit of a journey of self-discovery, a bit of a growing,
Hmm.
growing through adversity, and understanding that we're not perfect, that um, we make mistakes, but learning how to grow through them and not only forgive one another, but forgive yourself for
Hmm.
those stupid mistakes that you make,
Right.
and um, I guess understanding what life's about, and understanding that, I speak to a lot of people, and as a person of faith, you get very often misguided people of faith who want to express their views as the gospel
Yeah.
and express their views without having an open mind and
Right.
without having a loving heart to go with it.
Yep.
And so my view is that yes, okay, well, this may be happening in your life, and that is broken, but we're all broken.
Yeah.
We're all this clay that can be, shaped and molded into something, beautiful if we allow ourselves to be bendable and
Sure.
malleable. Whereas if we get hard, then the cracks appear, and it's a lot harder then to reshape that clay into something that's that you can put on the shelf and admire, and it just gets chucked in the bin. So
Yeah.
I'd rather be malleable. I'd rather be, able to be formed and molded by my experiences, by the people around me who I trust and love, and not necessarily always get it right, but know when you get it wrong and just learn from that and grow from that. So I guess that's maybe what a lot of my songs are about.
Very interesting. You know what? The COVID brought out a lot of great lyrics, you know. I mean, I've heard multiple songs based on their COVID experience, you
Yeah,
know, and if there's a good thing about what happened, it did bring out a lot of good, a great music, just like
Oh,
the
definitely.
Vietnam War brought out good music. It's that
Yeah,
kind of thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Very interesting. Then you came out with White Shadows and you went to almost 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's an the reason being is because it was probably only around about 10 minutes initially, and then Cam came
Right.
up with this song in the middle. And
Yeah, I love the changes in this song. It's really,
yeah, and
yeah.
and and I said that will fit perfectly in White Shadow, so I kind of appended that to the middle of it, and then it kind of kept growing and growing and growing. But it originally sparked from a lyrical idea that Danny had about a
Hmm.
dream he had, about almost like a nuclear kind of winter
Hmm.
type thing. So I took those lyrics and I guess poeticized them and reworked them and with his permission, of course, and yeah, and then Brody came up with some rhythmic ideas, and Cam came up with some, ideas, and then it just kind of formulated from there.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so it for me, I kind of liken it to a Stephen King book. Some of Stephen King's books are 1,500 pages, like it, and are really quite sort of epic.
Stephen
Yeah,
King.
yeah, exactly.
I actually met him because he's got a
Oh,
house here too.
fantastic.
He, he
And
signed
and
this
then
book.
and then he can write a short story, which is
Right.
as well. So, sometimes I'll write novels, and sometimes I'll write a short story, and I guess it
Yeah.
just depends on what the story needs, how long the story needs.
It's got
It's
some rocker elements in that song too, which I like, you
yeah,
know. And then I like the flute in that
Mm.
in that track. It's cool. It's a
yeah,
great song. Love the
yeah,
song. And then you end the album with Butterfly, kind of a soft track,
yeah.
you know.
That's another one of Cam's, which he
Hmm.
demoed a couple of songs with me, and I really always really liked that song, and I thought I could progify that with some synth solo and a bit of flute and this and that,
Yeah.
and so I did, and he liked it, and the rest of the band liked it, and yeah, it was kind of like what Danny used to call our palate cleanser. After something
Right.
as bombastic and as over the top as White Shadows, he said, yeah, at the end of the album, you'll have a palate cleanser, a bit like a
Hmm.
sorbet. So
Exactly.
like a musical sorbet at the end to just kind of get you to relax a bit rather than,
Yeah.
the up and you're all kind of uptight.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is Southern Empire going to be touring? Or I know you did some touring,
Yeah, we did some touring in 2018.
right?
Look, I never say never, and
You got
we've
to show off
discussed.
Shaun, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You got to show
we
off your new singer.
that's right. And look, we never
Yeah.
say never, but the cost of touring from Australia is so expensive to get anywhere. Say to the US, not only have you got flights, accommodation, and travel costs and equipment hire, you've also got getting visas, work visas, which can, we'd have to fly to Melbourne for, which,
Mm,
you that's a couple of grand right there, and then another couple of grand to actually obtain the visas. So there's sort of 4 or 5 grand that you've got to fork out even before you begin.
I
Uh,
know. I hear that a lot, man.
yeah, the same deal
Yeah.
for Europe and the UK. Now that Europe has the UK has had Brexit. You need visas for the UK. Europe's not too bad. That's fairly easy
Right.
to work there. But you've got even before you begin, you've got sort of 15, 20 grand worth of airfares and another 15 grand worth of accommodation, another 15 grand worth of van hire, equipment hire, drivers, tour managers, all of that kind of stuff. So unless you can be assured of making that back, with enough, enough gigs to actually support that.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. And also, all of the guys now have families. They have
I know.
regular income. So that all needs to be cost factored in as well. So
It's
say if
tough.
we're away for 3 weeks, you kind of going, well, if we all make say $1,500 a week, there's 4.5 grand each, and
Yeah.
that's another 25K that we need to come up with. So and look, I'd say if you were a tour promoter and you were happy to flick 100 grand at us and
Right.
we want you here for a month and I'm going to book 20 gigs, hell
That's
yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we
Cal
would not disappoint.
Caligula's horse is going to be in the U.S. soon.
Yeah.
They're doing a tour in the U.S. and it's got to be tough because most of the venues are going to be in or smaller venues too.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost them a bundle, but they're probably doing it just to get the word out
Mm,
about the band in the U.S. Basically.
absolutely. Absolutely. And they've
Yeah.
probably kind of taken out personal loans and, you know,
Right.
and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
there's really not anyone in the band with Unitopia, and the tour last year, we it was partly financed by Mark Monforti,
Hmm.
and partly financed by our guitarist John Greenwood. And Mark had an inheritance come through from a
Wow.
family member passing, and he wanted to chuck some money at it, which we were very grateful for.
Hmm.
And he just loves the band, and we're on his label, and he just got right behind it, and booked these gigs, and it was great that Octavia got us into 2 days plus one prog, and we got in on the another festival at the end,
Right.
and then we had some healthy crowds sort of in between time.
Hmm.
So all of those things kind of work together, but it still cost 100
I
k.
know.
And so with a lot of that, we won't be getting back. And then John, our guitarist, is very well off, and he contributed quite a bit, to the tour as well. So we don't have anyone like that in in Southern Empire. We're all relatively comfortable, but not well off, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we 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 make enough to get by, but
The ship's running, but the hand can't come up the wheel just yet.
Yeah.
Well, the only way to make it now, though, especially in Prague, you got to belong to several bands.
Yeah,
I mean, like look at guys like Neil Morris, Wilson, Steve Wilson. I mean, Portnoy. They all belong to so many different other
yeah,
entities.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
but
And
you got to keep busy 24/7 too.
their record sales reflect that. So they're what I would call the elite, in that they can put out an album and know that they're going to sell 20, 30,000 copies, and
Right.
that's enough to fund a tour or to fund the next album or whatever. And so, you know, as well received as the Unitopia album was, we've done sub 2,000, and as well received as Another World has been. We're probably not much more. I don't know. I haven't received figures for that yet. So it might be a little bit more, but it's certainly not around that 20 or 30,000 copy mark. Now,
Yeah.
if we start selling that, then there's that, and it's a vicious cycle in that if you tour, then you're going to eventually build up to
Right.
the figures. But unless you tour, you're not going to do that. Unless you do that, you're not going to tour. And so,
Exactly.
that vicious
Exactly
cycle.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. See,
So
I
never
always thought
say never.
Unitopia was fairly commercial.
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Fairly well known. A lot of people know Unitopia, and you guys been around such a long time too.
We have.
And they're
Um,
still playing your music like on Morrow.com. They play
mhm.
a lot of Unitopia stuff.
That's great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But it's still not reflected in sales.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we were investigating going to the UK, and the promoters and the venue operators over there were saying, look, it hasn't really bounced back since COVID. You're probably going to get 80 people there to a show, and that's not enough to pay people like Chester Thompson and you
Yeah.
know.
I met Chester. I met Chester when he was in Genesis in 1979
Yeah, he's a lovely man.
in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, he was signing autographs at the Peaches record store with Genesis. Yeah.
Fantastic. The stories we heard in the tour bus about, mainly about Zappa and Weather Report were
Hmm.
fantastic. They were great stories to hear.
Yeah.
So, we just say, tell us a story, Uncle Chester.
A lot of people really like his drumming in Genesis. They were
Yeah.
big fans of his. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's probably more nostalgic about those Weather Report days and
Mm.
Zap days than he is about the Genesis days.
About Genesis. Yeah.
I think that, as much as he enjoyed doing that, it was probably more of a job for him, a stable income job. But I think the Zappa stuff and the Weather Report stuff
Right.
really presses his buttons. And also, I mean, he absolutely loved the Unitopia stuff, loved playing it, loved
Yep.
listening to it, which was a great compliment. So,
Sure.
but
I
I've
do
been
want to talk about Seven Chambers, but first, Shaun, you have side things going on while all this is going on with the current band, or what are you working on right now
I'm
besides
I'm always working, so
okay,
I'm in a funny spot where I've made a career out of being a musician, but I
right,
haven't necessarily made a career out of being an artist. So I'm always working and performing.
okay,
And in a lot of ways, like having a family, and because my family basically lives off of that now. So
you got a beautiful family,
um,
by the way.
thank you, thank
They
you.
look fun.
They're putting years on my face. I tell you, the years are piling on. There's stuff
Yep.
growing on me that wasn't growing on there before.
Yeah,
And
I
I
know the
I
feeling.
think it's them. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so sometimes the music that I'm doing that keeps my whole life running keeps me so busy that it sort of pulls me away from some of the creative stuff. But I've just sort of hit my stride with where my family is developed now, where
Yeah.
they don't need me to sort of hover over them quite so much anymore. And so those moments to sort of quietly sit in the farthest reach of my house with a guitar on lap are growing and growing. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, and it's been probably for the last 20 years a push and pull. I've had moments where I've been
Right.
greatly successful as an artist, and that's taken the forefront. And I've done national tour, 49 states in the US. I was a bit of a hit on YouTube in the early YouTube days.
Hmm.
So I've really just kind of dabbled in everything, and just basically either followed the passion or followed the money, but it all overlaps.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm the busiest creatively than I've ever been, which is great.
Good. You guys are both producers. Are you working with other artists as well? You
Mm.
helping them or no? Yeah.
Yeah, both of us do.
Yeah.
Always a little bit of cross-pollination there in that, sometimes I get Shaun into, sing a song that I'm producing, and
Hmm.
sometimes he'll get me to do a mix or add some keys or whatever. So there's a bit of cross-pollination there, but we both have our own, um, you know, um, setups that we work in, and which keeps us busy. So
It's great for me. I've basically on the one hand, joined the band of my dream, but also as a
Hmm.
producer and engineer, I've got the greatest
Yeah.
internship going right now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Right.
yeah.
How about an album with Keith Urban?
Well, look, he owes me a car. I managed
Uh,
to pull him up on stage to do a song with me that was not very well known, and the next day it was extremely well known.
That's what I mean.
I'm
Yeah. That's
still
all it
waiting for a
takes.
Tesla, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other Shaun, you know a lot of people. You should get them also to work with you. You know, like look at
Yeah,
Neil Morris, how successful Neil Morris got. He's always working. I mean, the
yeah.
PR with Neil Morris is incredible, you know,
I
and he
think
works
it,
with so many different artists.
I think it's making that leap, you know, and because at the moment I need to make sure I'm paying the bills,
Right,
you know, and I think he's made that leap from, you know, he can, I guess, to a point, pick and choose what he does.
right.
Whereas I will work with anyone and everyone who contacts me, you know. So I have probably about a dozen regular artists I work with,
Hmm.
and they range everything from sort of, you know, pop rock through to adult contemporary, through to country, through to, you know, all sorts of stuff. And so I'm I guess at their beck and call, at their mercy, and you know, they will write the song and then I will produce it, and you know, I might help them with some creative ideas, but you know, my job is to make their song sound as good as possible and
Right.
within their budget, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much doing that full time. And then having a fairly young family, I've got two boys, nearly
Hmm.
9 and 14. And so they take up, you know, as much time as I can allow them. And, you know, and so it's kind of juggling.
Yeah.
So
It's tough.
yeah, yeah, I would love to be able to say, hey, I'm just going to do this or I'm just going to do that. But you know, it's I'm not quite there yet, but we'll wait and
Yeah.
see.
You'll get there. You'll
Yeah,
get there.
yeah.
I'm already
I
there.
think
I mean, my kids are in their 30s. I got five grandkids. They're all young, you know. The grandkids take up a lot of my time though.
that's good. That's good time taking.
It is.
But yeah,
Just you guys wait when you get there. You know, you're gonna be putty in their hands.
pretty much,
I can't
pretty
wait.
much, pretty much. But yeah, it's look. In saying that though, there's no regrets and there's no. I enjoy
Good.
going to work every day. I enjoy all the people that I work with. You know, I think that the past year has been really productive. I think everything just came to a head at the
Hmm.
same time, you know, because it was first the Demonic album and then John Greenwood's album and then the Unitopia and the Southern Empire album. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
four prog albums out there that I've been
Got a lot
involved.
going on, man. Yeah.
A little bit of work with like a synth solo for Merrick Arnold's art rock project and a
Hmm.
couple of piano bits for UPF and you know, so there's quite a few albums I've been involved with over the past 12 months. And so yeah, I'm pretty grateful for that, you know, sort of to do, you know, four major prog releases plus a tour is a pretty good year.
It is. It is. Steve Hackett contacted you a couple of years ago too about your studio or something.
It was David Williams, the promoter who brought him out, actually
Hmm.
contacted me. It wasn't Steve, it was the promoter, and he wanted to bring
Okay.
something about solo without his band, just for you know cost effective reasons.
Right.
And he said, "Could you put a band together and do the Genesis stuff with Steve?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, that'd be fine." And so I started working on that. And then it turned out that Steve really wanted to bring the band, and you know the caliber of his musicians is incredible. And so you know David said, "Yep, that's fine." So that kind of died you know in the ass. And but Steve was really gracious. I met up with him. I went to the UK at around about that time and took me out to dinner. I had a lovely evening with him and his wife Jo, and
Right.
you
Yeah.
know I got to spend some time with one of my all-time heroes. And the
Yep.
funny thing is being a keyboard player, I gravitate more towards guitarists and singers than I do keyboardists because
Mm.
I kind of know everything that they do. I can listen to Rick Wakeman and
True.
know what he's doing, and I can listen to Tony Banks and know what he's doing, and I can listen to Patrick Moraz and kind of know what he's doing, you know. And that was one of the big highlights, actually, of when we went to Progstock, and Patrick Moraz and I shared a car ride to the airport, and I got to share with him how much of an influence he'd been on my playing as a 16-year-old, you know, kid into prog. And yesterday I did a big cleanup, and I actually found an old piano transcription of one of his pieces off the Story of I, which I'm going to scan and send to him a day or two. But he was lovely, and he's just been such a hero of mine. But as I said, I tend to gravitate more to guitarists and singers, and so to spend some time with Steve, and just get these recollections of, you know, I mean, Please Don't Touch is one of my all-time favorite albums, and you know, and I've seen him live now in Melbourne about 7 years ago, and then here in Adelaide not that long ago, and we still had COVID protocols when he came over last, and so we were told by, you know, management that we weren't allowed backstage, and he contacted John and I, he's a good friend of John's, and they know each other quite well. Said, "Where were you?" He said, "I was looking for you. I was hoping to catch up after the show." And it was like, you know, you didn't. I said, "Well, we were there. We just weren't allowed backstage." "Oh, no, that would be fine." And
I know. It happened to me a bunch of times too. Yeah, when I was supposed to go backstage, and the venue prevented me from going backstage.
Yeah. You know, things are more relaxed now, but back a couple of years ago when he toured last, it was
right. I've had Steve on the show several times. I love Steve. And Patrick as well. Patrick, I got some good stories with Patrick.
Yeah.
You know, he was on the set of Predator. Did he tell you that?
No.
Yeah, he was on the set of Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I mean, he was like a diving instructor back in Spain.
Yeah.
He knew God, I can't remember now. This is my A show, and the famous artist, the crazy famous artist. Yeah, no.
Van Gogh.
The eccentric guy. What's his name?
Dali.
Dali.
Yeah.
He knew Dali in Spain, and actually got invited into a studio, you know, where he was painting and everything.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah.
No, Patrick's a cool guy. He lives in Florida. Yeah.
We had a 20-minute 20-minute conversation in the car, you know, to the airport. But he was kind of just so, you know, he actually wanted to hear my story about how much of an influence he'd had on my life, and I was happy to tell him, you know, and so it was very cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. But my favorite Yes album is Relayer.
Yeah,
you know, and he was the keyboard player on Relayer. So,
well, as I told him, I said, look, you know, my dad brought home Journey to the Center of the Earth one day when I was 18, and it was just blew my mind. I thought, this is everything I'm going to do. It's got an orchestra, it's got a choir, it's got a full band, it's got you know, a guy with a gold lame cape and 15,000 keyboards, and this is what I want to do. This is the
exactly.
Shit. And then read that he was in Yes, so I went straight down to the record store and said to my mate Andy, I said, "Andy, what have you got, you know, of Yes?" And he gave me Relayer, and I go, "Yeah, I bought it and I took it home and I played it." And then after a little while, I realised that Rick Wakeman wasn't the keyboard player on Relayer, and so that I gained this whole appreciation for Patrick Moraz's playing, and then went out and bought the Story of I as soon as it was released, and that was another revelation. So very very. So yeah,
I think he's a little underappreciated, maybe from you know, because he's revered by his other, you know, musicians and whatever, but you know, this guy played in the Moody Blues too. You know, I mean, both bands. You know,
yeah, absolutely, and his stuff in the Moody Blues is incredible. So yeah, even his stuff with Refugee and Main Horse, and you know, before Yes, all of that is fantastic, and is on a par with anything I think that Keith Emerson did as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I rate him up there with Keith Emerson, and I rate Keith very highly.
go to Keith Emerson's Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
There's a huge like couple of paragraphs of me talking to Keith about his revolving piano and California Jam. It's
Oh,
really cool. I think I was the only one that actually got him to talk about that. It's really neat.
good. All right. I'll
Yeah.
have a look. I'll have a look. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool. I got to talk
Excellent.
about Unitopia just
Yeah.
for a little
All good.
bit. First of all, I love the album.
Thank you.
I want to say how much I enjoyed the Genesis medley you guys did, first of
Mhm.
all, and the Yes medley. You guys were incredible with that Genesis medley.
Thank you.
That was right spot on, man. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's it's one of those things that kind of just grew organically. Mark, when we were doing the covers album, said, "Oh, let's do a Genesis cover," and I said, "Well, why don't we do something that nobody would have done?" And so we picked the Silent Sun off their very
Fantastic.
very first album, and we wanted to do it not a carbon copy. We wanted to kind of create our own version of it, which I think we did, and then that kind of led into, and then we did Carpet Crawlers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Mark had always loved that song,
Me
and
too. Yeah.
we wanted to do that a bit of a I guess a conglomeration of a few different versions because they had that 1990 re-release where they remixed
Mm-hmm.
it and all of that. And so we did a bit of that, bit of the original, and then we kind of thought, oh, maybe if we kind of join them together and put in a couple of other bits. And then it kind of grew organically from there, where we sort of added a few other bits and pieces in between. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think
Fantastic.
even Chester said he thought it was really good, and I'm kind of going, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not praise. I'll take that.
You guys
Yeah,
and Southern Empire did a great version of Hey You, the Pink
yeah,
Floyd.
yeah, and Roundabout. There's a version of Roundabout that we do as
Right.
well. And yeah, well, that was Danny. He said, "Oh, I said
Hmm.
we could do a couple of covers," and I think he suggested both Roundabout and Hey You, and yeah, I said, yeah, let's go for it. So yeah,
Incredible.
yeah,
I just want to mention my favorite Unitopia song, More Than a Dream, is probably
Mhm.
that's a hit. That's a
Thank
great,
you.
great, great song.
It's actually
And
been likened to a Transatlantic song, I think,
right.
Dance with the Devil. But we actually wrote that. Well, I wrote that piano part
Hmm.
well before that album came out. So it's a bit of a coincidence, but people say, oh, it's reminiscent of that. Whereas if you look at listen to the end of, because I'll say if it was influence, which it wasn't,
Right. Sure.
but the end of the garden is definitely my homage to the end of Supper's Ready. That's
Hmm.
like that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
I wanted to write something that had the same impact as the end of Supper's Ready. So that's deliberate. But yeah, More Than a Dream is, I'm really quite
You
proud of
should
that
be
chord.
proud of that one. I
Yeah,
love that song.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another favorite, Cries for the Lonely. You know what it sounds like in the background? It's kind of a Flash Gordon. You remember Flash Gordon? The music
Yeah,
of Flash Gordon, it was Queen,
yeah.
and I kind of hear the Queen influence there with a little bit of Styx as well. But that should be a hit. I think Cries for the Lonely should have been a big hit as well.
Well, that was kind of my protest song. I wrote the lyric from that out of our country, like many countries, has I guess quite a hard stance on illegal immigration, and
Right.
but when you see, kids floating in the ocean dead like a piece of
Oh,
drift,
that's
uh,
horrible.
you kind of have to rethink your whole policy on that sort of thing that allows that kind of tragedy to happen. So
Right.
that was my, I guess, protest or I guess a little bit of eye-opening scenario on that.
Hmm.
Um, and so not to, I guess, not to just use those sweeping statements and sweeping thoughts, but realize that everyone's got a story and everyone's got a life and
Sure.
everyone's got, their own shit that they're just trying to, escape
Yeah.
from. And
Yeah.
and the only thing I'd say is absolutely escape from that kind of stuff if you can, but
Yep.
don't bring it with you.
Right.
Leave it behind
Exactly.
and adapt and assimilate and join and be a part of,
That's
and absolutely bring your culture with you, because we're definitely a melting pot here in Australia.
Yeah.
Um, but leave all the craziness behind, I think.
Right.
And that was kind of my sort of
Yeah.
take on it. So, yeah,
Just a great song, man.
thank you.
Real quick, Seven Chambers, love the album.
Thank you.
I think we were talking about COVID. A lot of these tracks came out of that thinking, right? About the COVID area and
I think it came out of just all of us. Chester's 75 now,
hmm
and myself, John, and John are about the same age, so we're both 61.
hmm
John, I'm 61, Mark 67, 68, and so when you kind of hit those late 50s, things start kind of
Yeah,
dropping
they
off,
do.
falling apart, and
You're right. They're falling apart. Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
And Mark came up with this idea of doing a concept album based on those things that I had a heart attack, a bit over 5 years ago, and John's had some medical issues, and Mark's had
hmm
medical issues, and Chester,
Me
even
too.
while on tour, had some medical issues, and so
Yeah.
we just started writing about that. And but I guess the lion's share of the writing was done by John. Even before he met Mark, he'd sort of had these ideas for songs, and I would take them and I'd say, I think it needs a chorus, and then I'd write a chorus, and
hmm
and Steve came up with the Uncertain, which is 20 minutes of prog bliss. And then Mark and I wrote Helen, which is again another one of my biographical songs. Um, and I'd say that John pretty much came up with most of the rest.
hmm
So yeah, I think it was for me an album that talks about prog's aging population. You'll generally find that a lot of our audience, certainly Unitopia's audience, are plus 55. I think Southern Empires is a little younger because of the nature of the
hmm
music and the nature of the band, but certainly
hmm
Unitopia sort of, I guess got that sort of slightly older demographic, and the longer you go, the more of your fans
True.
drop the perch and or get things wrong with them, or have these health battles and health issues, and
hmm
things like heart attacks and strokes and diabetes and
All that lovely stuff.
all that lovely stuff. So,
Can't wait, guys.
yeah, yeah, it's all ahead of you.
It
Yeah,
really sucks. I know. I'm 65. I'll be 65 this month. So,
Ethereal.
yeah. Yeah.
Although having said that, one of the privileges of being in prog is that it's one of the few musical cultures left where people actually have a physical version of the album commonly.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
when even though some of the aging fans leave the mortal coil, their families will sift through this stuff. And in a lot of ways, a lot of
Right.
the music that I love is stuff that I grew up with, and I think when my
Sure.
parents are gone, I'll get even closer to that music. So
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids were brought up on Yes, Pink Floyd, ELP, they all were,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, my
A reviewer, somebody reviewing the album. I'm going to quote this guy because I thought it was interesting. On Broken Heart, he said if New York Schubert Theater had a house band, Unitopia would be a shoo-in based on just this track alone. Did you see that?
That's cool. I like that. I'd be a
Yeah,
house
I thought that was interesting.
in a New York picture. That'd be fine. I'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
that could be my new career.
There you go. The theater.
But yeah, look, I'm proud of the Unitopia stuff. There had to be a bit of arm twisting because I'm so committed to Southern Empire and that release. There was a bit of arm twisting there, but I think for me it was the quality of John's songs and his passion about putting this album out, which really swung me over, and also the passion for his own album. I don't know if you've heard Dark Blue or not, but that's a great album.
Okay, I'll give it a listen to.
Absolutely, and also Damn's third album, Making Sure, which was released early in the year. Have a listen to that because I'm very proud of that one as well. So to have four like that in a year. And you talk a lot about Southern Empire and Unitopia, but I think that the Dominic album and John Greenwood's albums are both up there as far as songwriting, production quality, you know, and generally, you know, good clean progginess
and passion. John's got the internal fire of a man half my age.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a lifelong dream for him to actually do what he's now, which is producing progressive music. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite songs on the album, I know you like Helen, but Mania and The Stroke of Midnight were probably my favorites on this album.
Yeah. I like all of them. I think it's a strong album. And I enjoy playing all of them live. You know, it was really, really good fun.
Yeah.
You know, playing those songs live and playing a few of the oldies as well. You know, and it's, you know, playing keys and then looking over to my right and seeing Chester Thompson, like
very cool.
Fresh out of a Genesis film clip, you know, just laying it down. And then we've got Don Schiff on bass. Don and I became very close, you know, over the course of the tour, as he did with every other member. He just fit in so well, and he's such a lovely human being, as well as an incredible bass player. And he also has some amazing stories to tell as well. So tell us a story, Uncle Don. And so, you know, having those guys on board and getting to tour with them, you know, for 4 weeks was a bit of a dream come true. That was
definitely.
Yeah.
I want to mention real quick the Uncertain. To me, it sounded like a rock opera in a way. You know, it was good. Yeah.
That was Steve's song about his struggle with cancer, and you know, it's because it's so personal and so relatable to so many people. It's very, very strong emotionally, as well as musically, and so I think that's a masterwork. Really, the first time I heard it with Steve singing all the lyrics and playing all the instruments, I just thought, well, what am I going to do with this? You know, it was almost complete, and you know, then John would start putting some guitar parts on, and then I'd start putting some keys parts, and then Mark would interpret, you know, Steve's melodies in his own way and in his own style, and you know, gradually took the shape that it took for the album. But I think maybe one day in 20 years' time, when we re-release the expanded, you know, version of Seven Chambers, I think Steve's original demo should be on it, just so people can hear how brilliant it was, you know, when we first got it. So
awesome album, man.
Yeah. Steve's
all right, guys, here's your final question. Okay. I get some really interesting answers. I ask everybody this question. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, that's my favorite movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
You first.
I feel terrible because I can't remember his name. But there was a guitar. Oh, John Wesley. Okay, so
Oh, John Wesley, yeah.
I love John Wesley.
Hmm.
But he's not the. I wanted to just wear his shoes for a day, just to be the dude helping the Porcupine Tree show happen. Not necessarily
Hmm.
the guy, you know. He just kind of
Hmm.
came, did the job. It was glorious, and then left. But I would love to
Okay.
wear John Wesley's shoes for a day, circa 2003.
All right. Good answer. I never had that answer before. That's a good one.
Mine would be collaborating with my favorite songwriters and singers,
Hmm.
all together in probably one room. And there are a few of them. Probably my favorite singer songwriter is Paddy McAloon from Prefab Sprout.
Hmm.
Uh, if you've never heard Prefab Sprout, go and listen to
Okay.
Two Wheels Good, or I think it was Steve McQueen, but you know, same album, two different titles. Two Wheels Good, they released it as in America. They've got One Love Breaks Down,
Hmm.
Appetite, just some great songs. I've
Hmm.
followed him ever since back in the day.
Hmm.
Obviously, John Lennon and Paul McCartney and Brian Wilson,
Right.
uh, with Paddy McAloon in the same room, and Jimmy Webb and Bert.
Hmm.
So I think if I had all those guys in the same room with me, I'd be a happy man because I'd just be sucking them dry as far as
Yeah.
all that musical brilliance.
Hmm.
So Jimmy Webb, a genius, absolute genius of pop songwriting. Anyone who can write MacArthur Park is just a legend in my eyes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and George Gershwin. Sorry, I forgot George Gershwin. So there you go. Lennon and McCartney, Brian Wilson, George Gershwin, Paddy McAloon, Jimmy Webb, Burt Bacharach. There you go. There's seven,
That's
eight,
a
eight
hell of a
people,
lineup.
eight people including myself.
I never
So
understood the leaving the cake in the rain part, though, you know?
Brian saw him live, and he got to that line, and then he just stopped, and he goes, "What the hell was I thinking?" Lots of drugs. So,
I know.
yeah,
Sounded good, though, you
yeah,
know? It
yeah.
sounded good. It sounded
I,
prolific, you know?
no, James Taylor and Neil Young. There's 10 now. There's 10 of them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that list, if I think about it, that list will grow.
That's a great group.
Michael McDonald. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, you know. In fact, just bring the whole lot, the whole Doobie Brothers,
All the
all of them,
Doobies. Yeah.
all the
All
Doobies.
great songwriters, you know? All great songwriters.
Donald
Yeah.
Fagen. There's another one. Just
Yeah.
bring him.
Donald Fagen.
You know,
Yeah.
and let's go with the Earth, Wind, and Fire horns as well. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Hmm.
I listen to so much music, and
Yeah.
it's all different to prog. I listen to a lot of prog, but I listen to a lot of other stuff as well.
Here's another quick one for you. I've interviewed lots of great producers, including Peter Asher. I love Peter. He's been
Mm.
on my show many times. What about a producer? Who's your favorite producers? Both of you.
Ooh, I'd love to work with. So I'm a late '90s kid, so I was really
Right.
into like Incubus, and so I'd love to
Hmm.
work with someone maybe like Brendan O'Brien.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I love that sort of Southern California new metal meets experimental thing that was happening
Right.
there. Yeah.
George
Okay.
Martin,
George Martin, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
Alan Parsons,
Yep.
yeah,
I've had Alan on the show.
yeah.
Nice guy. Really nice guy.
You know
Yeah.
what? I've met over a fairly lengthy career of 40 plus years. I've met a lot
Right.
of artists, a lot of musicians and creative people,
Hmm.
and the they are overwhelmingly lovely, and normal.
Yes. Yeah.
You tend to be a little bit in awe of them because of their insane amount of talent.
Right. You would think. Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone I've met has been humble,
Yep.
um, genuine, and almost quite surprised by any degree of success they've had.
Yeah. They always say they're lucky. They've been in
Yeah,
the right place at the right time, you
born
know?
under a lucky star.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm approaching 600 interviews. I've never had a bad one. Never had a conflict with anybody.
yeah,
Nobody thought he was bigger than, whatever.
yeah. Until
They're
today.
all
Yeah.
very humble. Yeah. They're all very humble, like you said, and lucky to be where they were, and impressed that I knew all about them. I mean, I had to bring up some songs and titles they forgot about.
Oh yeah.
You
You
know?
brought up some stuff I'd forgotten about.
So you need guys like me.
Yes.
We very much do. Yeah.
Keep us on
Exactly.
our toes.
Yeah.
You know more
Your
about us
final
than we know
thing,
about ourselves.
what's next? What's next for Shaun Timms and Southern Empire? What's next for Unitopia?
Mhm.
What's next for all of you guys, both of you guys? What's your next project? What's the future look like?
Look, Shaun and I are currently working on, song ideas for the new album. And as I said, we've got quite a few ideas taking shape
Okay,
at the moment. And,
good,
I think it's some of the best stuff I've ever done.
good. I'm glad you guys are collaborating and you're not knocking heads because you're both, producers and you got your own way of doing things. It's very cool that you guys are meshing
I
well
think,
together.
I think it's because we're both used to collaborating with other
Right,
people. Um,
right.
that collaborating with one another is just a logical extension of that. And I think it's
Hmm.
also because we have a bit of a mutual admiration society, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much.
So so that's kind of what's next. I'm working with John on his second solo album.
Oh, good.
So we hope to
Awesome.
get that done and released by the end of the year.
Good.
I've got some stuff that Guy Manning has sent me to have a listen through.
Hmm.
Some new songs that he's written, and I've got one song that I could pretty much start mixing and adding bits to straight away. So whether that will be a separate project or another Dominic project, not quite sure yet, but that's something that's on the cards.
Good.
And I think with Unitopia, there are certainly Don and Chester and John and Mark are very
Hmm.
keen. They're very keen to continue that. So I would feel, even though there's nothing concrete, we're certainly chucking around ideas at the moment. I don't think it's the end of Unitopia by any stretch. And I think that Seven Chambers was, for all of us, we're very proud of it and very
Hmm.
successful. And I'm certainly open to exploring doing another album with them. It's a different dynamic than it was before. It's no longer mine and Mark's baby. It's
Hmm.
more of I guess more of a committee now,
Right.
which is good because there's a lot of pressure when you kind of
Yeah.
you're fronting something and leading it and all of that. And that's why it's so great collaborating with Shaun on Southern Empire, because it's no longer just me doing it all. And I have someone who has the time and the energy and the motivation to work with me on this and make
Hmm.
something together that's going to be better than something that we could do on our own.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same situation with Unitopia as well, that
Yeah.
we can create something, the six of us, that will be better than maybe Mark and I could have done on our own,
Yeah.
but also there's that even though we've got file sharing and the world is so small these days, Mark is now living in Thailand, and John and I live in South Australia.
Right.
Don's in Napa Valley, Chester's in Nashville, and Steve's in Rhode Island.
Wow.
So we are in 6 of us in 5 different locations. So 5 different parts of the world, 5 different time zones. So it's a major logistical,
Crazy.
nightmare.
Yeah. It is a nightmare.
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
a Zoom call happening, but we do occasionally, and we're
Yeah.
we're planning for the future. What form that will take, we're not really quite sure yet. We'd love to tour again. And I don't think that that Seven Chambers has really even hit its peak yet. I think with a little more promotion and getting the word out there, I think that's got definitely got some more legs to it. The same with Southern Empire. So even though
I'm going to promote the hell out of both albums.
Great.
Okay.
And John Greenwood's Dark Blue and Dominic, making sure.
Definitely.
I think both of those, there's John's got some epic pieces on there which are so beautiful, so beautiful. You listen to that in solitude with headphones.
Okay.
And close your eyes and just absorb it. And if you do like Steve Hackett, and if you do like that more orchestral symphonic type of prog, you'll really like John's album. And then making sure the Dominic album has got a 30-minute long piece called Oculus, which is I think one of the best things the guy's ever written. So you just sit down with that with headphones on, and again you'll be transported.
I'm so glad Steve Hackett created the Genesis Revisited, and he's got Nad Sylvan is one of the vocalists. I've had Nad on the show. He's a funny guy.
He is.
But I don't know why Peter Gabriel, he doesn't do a lot of Genesis material. He does his own thing in concert, and that's disappointing because he was so great in Genesis. And a lot of his fans would love to hear that early stuff, him do the early stuff.
They would. Absolutely. And I think Steve's been very smart in that way, that he's doing it to such a high standard. But I think that as an artist, I think you've got to do what really presses your buttons and not be influenced too much by what other people want you to do, but just to do what you feel you should do as an artist. And that's different for everyone,
It is.
The good thing is with Steve's stuff, although the Genesis stuff is the thing that really draws the crowds and makes the money, he's still writing and producing his solo stuff, which I think is
he's done so much material.
Yeah.
So he's incredible.
I think both approaches are perfectly valid. I think all the early Genesis fans would love to hear, Gabriel sing some of that stuff, but it's probably not to be,
I guess not.
Okay, Peter Gabriel has to be true to who he is, and what he wants to do. So,
Tony Levin's got it pretty good too. He bounced from there to King Crimson and the Stickman,
Yeah, absolutely. He's living the dream, and
he is living the dream. Yeah.
That's really all you can expect, is that people like that can put their head on their pillow at night and say, I'm happy with what's done. And
exactly.
Even if Gabriel never sings another Genesis song in his life, the thing is we've got that wonderful body of work, from Genesis to Revelation through to Lamb Lies Down, forever. people would rediscover that, and I'll still listen to it and hear things that I've never heard before. And so
True.
it's a great body of work and something that, as I say, will stand the test of time, and hopefully the stuff that we're producing will do the same. That's all you can hope for as an artist, that your work
Mm-hmm.
carries on longer than what you do.
We were so lucky though that Phil Collins, could fill Peter's shoes
Yeah.
because Phil sounded so much like him, and he continued the legacy of Genesis perfectly. 'Cause, I mean,
Absolutely.
The Trick of the Tail is probably one of my favorite albums,
Yeah.
that he,
The Wind and Wuthering, I love, and then
yeah,
Duke, all of those albums are just
they're
sensational.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did a
absolutely.
great job. He really did.
Yeah, I think
Well,
people are unfairly harsh on the Collins era of Genesis because
well,
of the
you
pop
know,
sound that he has.
I did not like his pop stuff either because when you're a die-hard prog fan,
Mm.
Just like with John Anderson, when I had a conversation with Chris Squire that I was pissed off when they let John Anderson go in the band. I told him to so also when he was on holiday in Hawaii. That broke my heart, when they brought in the guy from a tribute band to
Yeah,
fill in the shoes. I mean,
yeah,
you can't do that. And the same thing with Phil Collins when he started doing those cover songs and got really commercial. I didn't like it either. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
as a music journalist, I didn't like it at all,
yeah.
because this guy was writing prolific stuff and, you know what I'm talking about. It's
Oh,
like King
yeah,
Crimson
absolutely.
doing the Supremes, I mean, right? Come on.
I feel like there's this incredible amount of talent there that's kind of going to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah,
I know. He was such a fantastic drummer, songwriter, and just to see him, I know he enjoyed doing those songs, but the diehard Genesis fans didn't appreciate it at all.
yeah,
It's kind of to me, it's like selling out. You know,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I get that, but
But
hey,
producers like yourself, you dabble in all kinds of genres.
I
You
do
know,
because I have to because I have to pay the
right?
bills. you
Exactly. So it doesn't
But
bother you,
well, it doesn't because I my job is to make the artist happy and to
sound good.
they're doing
Yeah,
what pushes their buttons, so they're being true
right,
to what they want to do.
right.
I'll counsel them and I'll guide them, and they'll say, "Do you think I should do a cover to da 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 da?" And I'll go, "Look, I think your songs are strong enough to hold on their own. I don't think you need that."
Hmm.
Or I might just sort of say, "Hey, if you do this, or try this, or do that, and make it different,
Hmm.
and make it yours, so that it doesn't sound like a cover, but it just sounds like another song off
Right.
the album."
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And when you
You
met with enthusiasm as well, it's hard to not have that wash over you. This year I'm going to be on the stage around Australia probably more than I ever have, singing all
hmm
kinds of different stuff from the smallest pubs to the biggest theaters that we have, with orchestras and all kinds of stuff going on. And in some of those instances, I'll be wearing purple sequins, and belting out some Elton John or something like that, which are things that I have an appreciation for, but like artist wise, is never something that I ever envisioned myself doing. But when you're
right.
standing in front of 2,000 people that are just
Yeah.
loving it, it becomes something bigger than you in that moment anyway. And I'm just servicing these songs, I'm servicing this crowd,
Right.
and they're servicing my mortgage. So
Well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do,
yeah.
basically.
But Projected Twin is not going to do an Elton John
Yeah.
cover time soon. So
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I wanted to say you can purchase the latest release of Southern Empire, Another World. I Amazon.com. You can go to your website as well, I guess.
yeah, probably the easiest, quickest way would be to go to a record company, GP.
.co.uk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the best place to go. I know I'm an author as well, and I got books out there, and I know Amazon takes a big cut out of me. So
Yeah. Yeah, gep.co.uk and proggrock.com to get
okay,
the Utopia stuff. I think they've got some vinyl for both albums as well.
okay, good.
So yeah,
Vidal's doing excellent, by the way.
yeah, it is. I just checked through John Greenwood's album, the vinyl pressing. So he's putting out the vinyl for his album. So
Good.
yeah, it's a bit of
That's
vinyl
so
happening.
good. That's so
Great.
good for prog. Albums are perfect for prog, the vinyl.
They are. There's
Yeah.
just a special feeling about putting that needle on
Yep.
the wax and hearing that little crackle, and then you hear it through
Oh,
the
I
speaker.
love it.
Well, and the
Glorious.
art wants to be this big.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be at least this big.
And album covers are so important, especially
Yeah.
to prog.
They are.
I used to buy a lot of albums just by the album cover,
Yeah.
I
And that's
first
one thing.
introduced myself to Camel from the
Yeah.
album cover, you know?
That's why I think our relationship with Ryan, our cover artist, will continue.
Hmm.
He's done some amazing artwork, and
Yep.
also Ed's done some amazing work with Unitopia over the years.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Great
yeah,
album covers.
yeah, yeah. So
Well, Seven Chambers, it's out there by Unitopia. You can also, I guess, go to the website, Unitopia website,
yeah, progrock.com is probably the best.
progrock.com.
Yeah,
Don't forget about Shaun Holton's Projected Twin, which is also an incredible album. Earth Meet World.
Yeah.
Bandcamp.
Or you just Google me. I've got a good Google algorithm. You'll find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're out there a lot. I noticed that. Southern Empire, you got your Facebook page, Bandcamp, I guess. Unitopia's got an official website, Facebook, Instagram, and also Sean Timms, you've got a Facebook page. Also, don't forget to go to the YouTube pages. Sean, you've got a YouTube page with all
Yep.
your music on it. And I'm also listing all the discography for Southern Empire and Unitopia and your live albums, singles, and all that good stuff. So,
There's a bit out there.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff out there, man.
A lot of stuff.
Thank you so much, man, for finally
You're welcome.
connecting. It's been
You're welcome.
wonderful to talk to you guys. Keep me informed. Let me know you got my email address. Anything new, anything pressing, we'll get you back on the show immediately. Okay.
Definitely. That's brilliant. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I wish to see both of you in the US, hopefully,
Well, get us a promoter that's happy to chuck 100K at it, and we promise we'll make them their money back.
Oh yeah. See,
So,
if it's me, I'd put together a prog package.
yeah.
Maybe you guys with Caligula's horse. I'd add some guys like I don't know. I love RPWL from Germany. I don't know if you know those guys.
Yeah.
They're great, aren't they?
They're really good. I love
Yeah.
that track Roses that Ray Wilson sings. That's one of my all-time favorite songs. It's a brilliant song. Brilliant song. Yeah. Moon Safari.
Yeah.
Moon Safari. They're great bands. They've just released their latest album, which is a bit unfortunate because it's pipping us at the post for a few prog album of the year.
Yeah, I know.
It couldn't go to a bunch of nicer guys though. They're great. They're great.
Yeah.
Lovely people. So
Go ahead. Maybe Marillion.
Yeah.
You guys and
I think we could. Marillion.
I've got a nice cover of Easter out there somewhere. Some collaboration I did with someone from Brazil long ago.
Yeah. Find that for me. I love that.
Yeah. It's good. It turned out well.
Unitopia did that.
We'll put Haken on the bill. Haken did a nice tour of the US not long ago. Ross Jenkins. Yeah.
They're
Those
great.
Are good guys as well.
We Southern Empire supported them a few years ago when they were So that was a good show. They're a brilliant band.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I think a nice prog package would do well in the US because there are a lot of great prog fans here. There really is.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to get the right promoter.
You've got to get the right promoter and who's prepared to chuck some money at it and help with the with those work visas
Mm.
because they're a bitch.
Well, if I get some extra cash, I'll do it.
All right, sounds good.
Hey, any excuse to shake hands with Michael Ackerfeld and just annoy him for 20 minutes would be fantastic.
When we supported Opeth at Thebby, he actually came in to our dressing room and just poked his hand and said, "Oh, hi, I'm Michael. How are you? I just want to thank you for working with us, tonight, and just have a great show, and just want to say thanks and say hi," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which no one ever does that.
Yeah.
No.
Didn't do, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty classy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He's a classy man.
Yeah.
But Prague is a family.
It is.
You guys really stick together,
Yeah.
That's what I like. That's another reason I like Prague so much. It's always been a family.
There's a fraternity there, which is important, I think. So, yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's gone back years and years since Yes and Ian Anderson and who knows, well, the ELP, all those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, good. And just we'll keep you posted on future developments.
Okay.
Just keep an eye on Facebook.
Well, I'd love to come to Australia.
Yeah.
I'd love to come to Australia.
Good.
That'd be so awesome.
Adelaide will take you to the Barossa Valley if you like red wine.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
For sure. That'd be great.
On earth for a red wine.
Maynard James Keenan approved.
Yeah, definitely.
Take care, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
No worries. See you soon.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.